So let's pick up where we left off. Yeah, that's one of the things I want to do. Because like if you look now at our unpin this thing, at our matinee, it actually cuts through the level. So let's go back and fix that right now. I'm just going to edit that matinee actor. And we kind of need to put some more keys in here. I need another key here, and then another key like here. So I'm going to put some keys in between. So I need 2 more keys. So I'm going to go to my matinee, click on my movement track, and I'm going to kind of insert them just wherever, and just put 2 more keys in here. And it's going to be basically the same thing that we did before. So I'm going to click on the key, go back to the map, and then adjust that position in the map without clicking on anything else, like that.
So put 2 more keys in.
Yep. Where'd you put them at? It doesn't really matter to start. We can adjust the timings of it later because it's all going to be linear anyway. So
no track selected. Damn it. Well, what's going on here?
You have to have a track selected first before you can do that. So click on the movement track and then drag the scrubber to the 2 spots.
Oh, there it is. And then once I do that, then I go back to my example map with the key selected.
Yep, you click on the key and then you go back to your map and then you move the anchor to correct your positional requirement. So I put 1 key, the position down here, and I put another key up here. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to each of the keys I just added, and I'm going to make sure these keys are also set to be linear as well.
That's great. So when you set them to linear, you have to go back to the up here.
Oh,
right?
we'll go to the 2 new keys, fit horizontal and vertical again. And then, yeah, I clicked on both of these keys up here, and I clicked on linear.
Linear.
That one too.
Linear.
And that'll make it so the speed doesn't change just because you approach those keys. Because the only thing we want is those keys are only going to control the vertical movement. So once you have that, it should look something like this.
My camera keeps dropping. I guess I have to adjust out the keys.
I think I'm pretty happy with where my matinee is now.
So if my, like in the first part, like here, I can go all the way to the top, all the way to the bottom. Oh, now I dropped out.
Your camera's slowly going up. It looks like your your first key is set too high for this. So go back to your matinee. Wait a minute. Yeah, so go back to, click on click on like that key right there, and go back to the level. Wait, you didn't click on it. Oh yeah, go back to level. Now zoom out. See how your first key is here? Your first key should be down here. You can use the see the little like handle there? That's like the angle handle.
Yeah.
That connects the blue and the green. You can use that and it'll constrain it so you can slide it in place. So you can move it up and down. You want it at that point, at this the part where you want it at the point where it actually starts. The ramp starts.
I want the middle there.
Yeah, you want like at the intersection, almost. Yeah. Yeah. Make sure this is as straight as can be. You don't really want that to move too much. Cool. That looks good. So go back and select your other key now.
The next one.
This one. Yeah. And then adjust that on the right to be at the top of the ramp.
I had F4 go to without jacking
Yeah.
things up.
See now how that's cutting off? You want that to be at this point here. You want to go more to the left at the same point, like at the intersection. At the intersection of that way. Keep going. You want to get very
Oh, no.
yeah. There you go. That looks better. That's the path that the camera takes. That yellow line is basically you want to be in the middle of the corner.
So then close this and.
And if you want to like test it faster, you could always scale the speed of the matinee up. I like to do that because sometimes the matinee just takes a while. You can click on it in the scene hierarchy here, in the scene outliner, and go down to play rate and just crank that up to like 5. And that'll speed you through the level like really quickly without, so you can test your matinee, or let's say you just want to get to the end boss really fast. That's a quick and easy way to get to that.
Does it change perspective when you shift and move forward and back?
No. Does yours do that?
Yeah.
Let me see. Maybe you added some rotation somehow into your key. If you rotate your anchor, it will change perspective. Oh, yeah, it does that because that's just how perspective works. That's okay, should we make an enemy and then call it done? And then meet up again next week for the final project? So we have this thing, it can shoot. Oh my god, it's moving so fast. Let me crank it down to 1 here. We can shoot, level moves. It's looking like a shoot 'em up. Like, it's looking okay. The only thing missing now are some things to shoot. So let's go back to our list. We have a, let me change my font here. We have a player that can fire projectiles. Cool. So that whole thing is done. Nice. Projectile that can hit enemies or players. We don't have that yet. Camera needs to follow the movement, and player needs to be in a cage. So this whole thing is done. So the only thing left are enemies to kill. So we need an enemy that moves right to left, multiple, and then an enemy spawner, an enemy that shoots projectiles. Okay, cool. I'm actually going to move this enemy that shoots projectiles down here.
Because they don't have to fight back.
They don't have to fight back. They just have to act as obstacles for now. And we're kind of running out of time, so I think we can just do this without having the enemy shoot at you. So let's first set up just one thing that can blow up when you hit it. Okay, that's it. We'll just set up an enemy that blows up when you hit it. So we're going to make a new blueprint, a new class blueprint. That's an actor. And as you can guess, this is going to be BP underscore enemy. What do we want our enemy to look like? Well, first let's add a scene component. Make it the root. And then let's not make a baby.
That's a good idea.
I don't want to make babies with you guys. Sorry. I already have enough baby.
I don't know, square.
We could always go the classic donut route.
So we can also do something kind of cool with this. We can just have an enemy kind of spinning. Donuts, let's do donuts. I like the way you're thinking, John. We're going to have it be a torus. And we're going to flip it 90 degrees forward so you can tell it's a donut. And we're also going to add a sphere component to this guy. It's going to be the collision. Just like how we did with the the projectile. So add a sphere, and you can scale the sphere up to basically match the enemy.
Should you put movement first?
We're not going to do projectile movement for this guy. This guy is going to be a little different. At least not right away. I just want to have this thing stand there and take shots. Like, I just want it to blow up when I hit it. So I added a sphere as well. I'm actually gonna keep the collision at 0, 0, 0. So the location of the collision will be at 0, 0, 0. And I'm just gonna move the mesh instead of the.
Did you make the donut smaller or the sphere bigger?
I made the sphere bigger. I'm not sure that's the right size yet. I'm gonna put it into level right now to see. Drag this guy into level. Cool. That looks like a good size to me, relative to the size of. Yeah, it's a good size for an enemy. Let's give it a material too. Might as well. Go into rendering and then. I don't know. Let's see here. That seems good.
Chewy.
Bless you.
That was a weird ass sneeze.
What?
You're welcome.
I just put a material on it to distinguish it. What happened to your other sneeze?
I was embarrassed by it.
You shouldn't be embarrassed by your sneeze. You should own it. So there's my enemy. I think the size there is okay relative to the player. Cool. We're actually going to go to the mesh and we're going to disable the collision on this thing too. We're going to have it have no collision on the mesh.
No collision.
Because the only collision this thing needs is from the box, or from the sphere collision. Let's also have this thing slightly rotate over time. What do you guys think? Like just have a slight spin on it.
Sure.
It's really easy. Go to the blueprint and add a event tick. And then on event tick, drag a wire and do add rotation. And you're going to do an add actor world rotation. And right click on his delta rotation input link and split the struct pin. And we're just going to spin his yaw. So take the delta seconds from your tick, multiply it by a float. I kind of want it to rotate 90 degrees every second.
Is it multiplied vector?
Float by float. Take the delta seconds and multiply float by float and plug that into the yaw. I put 90 there. You get a little spinning donut. We'll come back to that. Okay, next thing, let's have the projectile collide with the enemy. So our enemy already has a sphere that generates overlap events. So we'll actually know when our projectile overlaps with the enemy because they both have spheres for a collision. And when either of them runs into each other, I can tell that in the projectile. So go to the projectile here.
The regular projectile.
No, I'm sorry. We're going to use the player projectile here because we don't want the player projectile to run in with enemy projectiles. So go open up the blueprint for BP projectile player. So click on that guy. And I'm actually going to close all my other tabs except for the level tab just to make sure I don't screw that up. So here's my BP projectile player. I'm going to add an event actor begin overlap for this projectile. And for now, I'm just going to do a print string. I'm just going to print out the other actor. You can't drag the other actor directly into the print string. Drag the wire and type get display name, and then you can plug that in. What you should see is that it should collide with kind of everything, like a bunch of things here. So when I shoot the projectile once, it hits the player, then it hits the enemy, then it hits the level anchor twice. And here it hits a player, hits a level anchor, player. It's hitting the level anchor because the level anchor has those big walls on either side. So you should see something like that when you do the print string. Bam.
Cool.
Do you guys see that? The print string?
Oh yeah.
Because now we know if you actually shoot your enemy, you should see your enemy show up in that list too. BP_enemy should show up there. And if it doesn't, then stop and then let me know. Does it work, everyone? You guys got it? Mike?
Yeah.
You good? John? You good?
I'm just moving my enemy in
I think I messed up on that now.
Why? What happened?
It speeds up in certain areas.
Oh, you have to make sure it's linear. So go back. So Mike will
I
go.
kinda like it though.
You kind of like? Okay, cool. Then leave it.
It'd be like you get into like one area and then it just goes a little faster.
Okay, as long as you know how to fix it. Let me show you how to fix it in case you do want to fix it. You just go to the matinee, just click on your keys here and just make sure they're linear.
Oh,
How did you get it to change to that kind of a graph?
Wow, what kind of graph?
Like my graph does not look like that above it.
I clicked on movement. I clicked on these two buttons.
Ah,
This will basically frame it so it captures all the keys in your graph.
okay.
I think I just need to move the keys in the timeline.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Either way, it's fine. Okay. So once you have this begin overlap, the last thing we need to do is we need to tell the enemy to destroy itself. We could destroy the enemy for right here, but that's not really the best way to do it actually, because the enemy is going to do things like spawn a particle. It's going to play a sound, and then it's going to kill itself.
So we won't tell the enemy.
Yeah, so go open up the enemy blueprint and right-click and add a custom event. Make sure it's not the projectile enemy like I just did. Make sure it's the enemy, BP_enemy. So right under the event tick, I'm going to add a custom event. And I'm going to call this one take damage. Now, next week, we'll get into actually having it take more than one hit for some enemies, so we can actually have it have hit points and reduce. For now, take damage is just going to do two things. One, it's going to spawn an emitter at location, and as you can guess, it's going to spawn an explosion. And the location is just going to be get actor location. And then it's going to destroy itself. Whoa. That's kind of weird. Huh. That's kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know why 4.6 is so buggy. I dragged a wire off here and I typed destroy and it's not showing up. So I have to right click and do destroy after. And then I can plug that in. So this is our take damage. It basically just spawns an emitter at a location and then calls destroy.
Destroy. No. Destroy
You can't drag a wire for the destroy. Just right
destroy
click.
actor.
Yeah. Okay, so once you have this, compile. Go back to your projectile for the player. And I'm going to delete the print string and all that stuff. I'm going to keep the overlap. But off the blue wire on the other actor, I'm going to cast it to BP_enemy. And this lets us tell whether the thing that we hit is an enemy or a player or the level anchor. And once we have that it's the enemy, all we do is drag a wire from the enemy and we call take damage. And bam, that is it. So I can kill one enemy, blows up.
Oh, that was fun.
Good.
I could just duplicate a couple of these guys, right? Like so. Maybe more than a couple. Like that. Bam, 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 bam.
Oh.
I feel like the
one shot going through more.
I feel like the projectile should die when that happens. So let's just do that afterwards. Just after take damage, just destroy actor on the projectile.
Say what?
That way you have to actually shoot multiple times to blow it up. And I think it feels pretty good.
So after destroy actor, we're gonna destroy actor again, but it's gonna be.
No. This isn't a projectile. The projectile needs to destroy itself after it hits an enemy.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Take damage. Okay, then destroy actor.
Yeah, because you saw in R-Type there are projectiles that go through enemies, but this specific one won't do that yet. We can make another
Level
one.
1, man.
Yeah, exactly. We can make another one that shoots that actually has, it actually can
Take more
bigger.
than one player to win.
Yeah, exactly. Or even go through walls, which is some of them too, depending on how much damage you deal. Okay, so I think we have time for one more bit. These things are just placed in a level, but I think what we can do is we can make a spawner. We'll make a simple spawner, and then next week we'll actually have it be trigger based on matinee. Because if you actually saw an R-Type, it's a scripted sequence of enemy spawns, right? Like enemies spawn at very specific points in the level, they spawn in specific patterns, and so we'll do that. But for now, we'll just have it spawn at a set timing. So if you think about how a spawner works, how does a spawner work? What is actually different about a spawner compared to the player shooting a projectile? Isn't a spawner just another type? It's like a player, except instead of shooting projectiles, you're shooting enemies at the player, right?
Yeah.
So how about this? How about for now, we'll just make a blueprint that acts like he's a player and just spawns an enemy every second, okay? So go ahead and make a blueprint, make another blueprint. And we're gonna call this one enemy spawner. Okay. As usual, add a scene component. Call it the root. But this time I actually want you guys to add, no, it's okay, we can just make it the root. Just add a root. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a behavior so that this thing spawns an enemy every, I don't know, 2 seconds, let's just say. Sound good? So go to Blueprint. We're going to, on begin play, we're going to do something that triggers some behavior. So we're going to actually set a timer, which I don't know if we've done before. A timer is just like a kitchen timer. Like really, you set a time for when you want this thing to go off, which I guess will be 2 seconds. Actually, let's go one step further. Instead of just doing 2 seconds here, right click on it and promote it to a variable. And call it spawn delay. Okay, so it should look like this right now. I promoted the time to a variable and make it looping.
Change to a float. And then default values, what is that, 7 or 2?
2. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to have multiple spawners and each one will have a different spawn delay.
It's not letting me put in the value.
You have to compile.
Guess I didn't.
Okay. Once you have your spawn delay hooked up, make it looping. Then function name, we're just going to type the word spawn. This will let us call a custom event. So once you type spawn there, right click on your blueprint and add a custom event. Call it exactly the same thing you just named your function name.
Spawn delay?
It's whatever you typed in here.
Oh.
You are going to die, aren't you?
I think so.
That sucks. Sucks, man. Okay, so you have this custom event now. You right click and you do custom event. You add a spawn. And spawn actor from class. That's it. So spawn actor from class, spawn your enemy. The spawn transform is get world transform.
Get world transform.
Okay, so now we have our spawner. I'm going to delete all the enemies I placed in the level because these guys are going to get replaced with our spawner versions. So I'm just going to shift select all the enemies. And I'm going to just place one of these guys in the level, the spawner. He's kind of hard to see actually, which is a shame. So I'm going to go back and add a billboard to the spawner before I go any further, just so I can see where he is in the world. There. Now I can see that this is a spawner. I'm also going to double check that it's lined up with the player. So the level anchor and the player are both at 1210 in X. So I'm going to click on my enemy spawner and make him 1210 as well. There's one guy. There's actually multiple guys in there.
Put us all in the same spot.
Yeah, because we need to also attach this enemy spawner to the anchor. So go ahead and just drag that enemy spawner on top of the level anchor.
Do what to it?
Just drag the enemy spawner on top of the level anchor.
So now it's going to drop him in front of you.
Yeah.
What do we do? We drag it on like we parent it?
Yeah. Just drag and drop it onto the level anchor. And what you can do is you can make multiples of these. So I can just duplicate this guy. I'm going to put 3 of these in my level.
Enemy spawner is only making one enemy.
Did you attach it? Or did you set a timer and set it to be looping? So go back to your blueprint, make sure this is checked, John.
It doesn't follow that
I
loop.
swear I did, but it's not.
Like a little bend in the path you did.
Yeah. So let's first set up the spawn delay here. I'm going to expose the spawn delay by clicking a little eyeball on the variable because I want this thing to change. The middle guy is going to spawn every second, and the guys on top and bottom are going to spawn every 2 seconds.
What did you change in it?
I exposed the spawn delay. So I went to the enemy spawner and I clicked the spawn delay, the little eyeball here.
Right.
And then I just placed a bunch of them in the map, and then like the middle guy I changed to be like every 1 second I spawn.
Oh, you put 3 spawners in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I duplicated them all.
And they're all still connected to the level anchor?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some gnarly freaking shooting on this thing.
Furious fingers.
I can go so much
How do
faster.
you win? Have you seen the Koreans play?
Button mash.
Those guys click.
So unfortunately, this thing basically keeps spawning enemies that you can't see. So those enemies don't actually move either. We'll tackle that next week as well. And we'll also fix up a bunch of the other issues with it. I think we have something that we can shoot. This can charitably be called a game. Not really much to it yet, but
Throw it on the App Store for 50 cents.
you'll probably make 50 cents.
The first guy.
My mom will buy it.
Your mom would buy it.
It's so simple. There's one level. You just go up once.
There's that problem too. So yeah, we'll have to add some kill volumes and stuff too. So if you get pushed by the environment geometry, we'll have to kill that stuff.